Buddy, it is the Awesemo.com Nhl Dfs strategy show, and we've got a massive slate to break down. I'm Jake Hari, joined by Michael Clifford, Slim Cliffy. You may know him as. How's it going, Cliffy? You ready to break this down here? It's going to be a while.
Yeah, I am. I was going to say, I hope everybody settled in with their beverage of choice here because we got a lot of games to dig through.
Yeah, Josh and I made it in about a little over 70 minutes last time, so we're shooting for that. We actually have to be out of here right at 4:55 Eastern, so we got about 70. Real quick, anything you noticed from last night? I mean, it was a two-game slate. Anything interesting that you saw? Vancouver depth was almost the play again. I don't think they were in winning lineups, but they got Vancouver 4 got 2 goals, so I'm sure a bunch of people were pumped to see that. Tyler Mott, the Nuts. Got anything from last night?
Yeah. The one thing that really stood out to me, because we talked about Ottawa, and we're going to talk about that game later. We talked about Ottawa's defense. And, like, I stand by my take that I think they're a better defensive team, but I think we kind of saw, like, it really depends which line is on the ice. The top line, Batherson, Norris, Tkachuk, they're pretty good. When anybody else is on the ice, it's a little bit hairy. So I think that's kind of what stood out to me watching those games last night, is that Ottawa, I mean, they're still technically in their rebuild, right? It's expected from them. But it really looks like they're going to be like really, really top heavy this year, like reminiscent of Sabres teams of recent years.
Yeah, they've had a rough couple last games, and they might be in for another one tonight. So this slate is weird, but it's also kind of nice that a lot of these games we saw just a couple nights ago, so we kind of have a good idea of how matchups are going to go based on which team won, and there were a couple blowouts in that game, in that slate. So we're going to see him running it back potentially with some different matchups elsewhere. But it should be fun. I just want to make sure I mention a couple things off the top. We do have a new NHL Twitter account, as you guys may have noticed, but we did change the name now. So we got a new one, had a new handle. Now it's just at Awesemo NHL. So I believe that's what the old one was. So go over and follow that if you are looking for some NHL news. It's very important tonight. Jump in our Slack chat if you haven't done that already. We've got packages for just $3.95 per week. That's what they start at. You can also get some packages with projections, ownership projections, all that stuff. You don't even have to pay for ownership projections today because we're offering those to you guys for free. So that is part of our free premium piece of content for the day. We've also got NBA rankings. So NBA is going to be coming on after this. That's why we got a hard out at 4:55 Eastern time. So fun day, lots of stuff going on. Let's get it started with Pittsburgh and Boston. 2.7 implied total for the Penguins, 2.9 for the Bruins. I believe it's going to be Tristan Jarry and Yaroslav Halak. He's confirmed for Boston. I saw that actually this morning. You've got Craig Smith moving up to the top line with Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand. And Pittsburgh came back late in the game to tie it up and get it into overtime. I can't remember who won this, but it was pretty low scoring. I think it was a 3-2 game a couple nights ago. Just new lines on Boston's the only note I really have. Just some tweaks there. But what are you seeing in this game? Anything jumping off the page to you, Cliffy?
Yeah, Craig Smith is the interesting guy here. The last show we talked about Boston 3, him and Charlie Coyle on the third line. They paid off for us. Craig Smith was in my Power Plays article at Awesemo this morning as a guy to use as a one-off. Like, he's a really, really good player. Like, he was kind of buried on the depth chart in Nashville, but this is what I wrote in my Power Plays this morning at Awesemo. From the start of the 2017 season through to the end of last season, that's a span of 3 years, he had a higher goal rate at 5-on-5 than guys like Kyle Connor and Leon Draisaitl, and he had the third highest shot rate in all of hockey. Like, all of hockey. Like, these are just absurd numbers. Like, he's not David Pasternak or anything, and I think there's a reason why he didn't get pushed up the depth chart in Nashville. It's because doing that there's a difference between playing 14 and 15 minutes a game like that and playing 18 and 19 minutes a game like that. But can he do it for a game or two until David Pasternak returns? Sure. Like, I really like having Smith on that top line. I know he's not on the power play, and like if you want to one-off him for that reason, I think that's fine. But I really like Craig Smith as a one-off here tonight. I know that Boston top line is expensive, so that's kind of why like I think I'm just going to one-off Smith. I'm not going to stack that line. I do have some interest in the Pittsburgh top line here. I know it's a really brutal matchup, but they play really well together. They played well together in the last game against Boston the other night. Like they didn't look bad, I thought, at all. If you look at the expected goals numbers and things like that, like the Crosby line did well. So, like, I know it's not a great spot. It's a 13-game slate. There's 26 teams, but you know the entire line is on the top power play unit. The entire line is under $19,000, which is pretty reasonable when you consider the upside that Gensel and Crosby have. Again, I know it's a bad matchup. I'm kind of willing just to kind of eat that bad matchup for the 1, 2, 3% ownership we're going to get here on a decent price for that Pittsburgh top line. So that's kind of where I'm going here. Like I have interest in that Boston top line, but I think they're expensive enough where you can get away from them. I'm more interested in one-off and Craig Smith, and I'm going to have some of that Pittsburgh top line as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to mix in. I was a little bit hesitant on Pitt 1 a couple of nights ago. I think I'm going to mix them in tonight and at least get a few shares in my MME builds tonight. Low ownership. Like you mentioned, they grade out pretty well in the top stacks tool, about double their ownership is their top 2 stack percentage. So a bunch of these high price lines are a little bit difficult to fit in, Pitt 1 being one of them. Not a great matchup, as you mentioned, but just I think a really good line that is reasonably priced on tonight's slate, especially when you compare them to like $24,000 Colorado 1, Boston 1 is over 20K. So obviously can't fit them together, but yeah, I like the top lines a little bit on both sides. And then for defensemen, it would mostly just be correlating whether Grizzly plays and you want to run him with Boston 1 or something like that. I think that's fine. Probably not playing too much Letang, even with Pittsburgh 1 at 5,700. Then you're starting to get really expensive really fast. You're really hurting for just overall projection of a lineup if you play Pitt 1 plus.
Yeah, and if you want a bit of a revenge narrative, apparently Jim Rutherford, the GM that resigned yesterday for Pittsburgh, apparently he resigned because he wanted to trade Letang and the ownership didn't want him to. So if you think Letang might have a little bit of extra motivation because he got the GM fired, well, tonight's the night.
Yeah, that's I mean, gotta hammer those revenge narratives on the big slates. No, I don't know. I mean, maybe that helps him a little bit mentally. If he's trying to get him out of there.
It's the same thing. If I would put him with Pitt 1, I'm not playing him as a one-off otherwise. Yeah, agreed.
I think you can group that out pretty safely. Let's go to the Rangers and the Sabres. 3 implied total on both sides. I believe the Sabres are just slightly favored. Shesterkin and Allmark are your projected goalies. We don't have word yet on Allmark, but Shesterkin is confirmed for the Rangers. Rangers lines have been swapping in game. It's been pretty frustrating. I don't know what they're going to go with here. Zibanejad, Kreider, and Buchnevich. I believe they started the game a couple nights ago, and then they got broken up. Di Giuseppe on the second line with Stroman Panarin is what we currently have. I don't really know. Is there anything on the Rangers side, or is this just a Buffalo power play game for you?
Like I'm with you. I do have interest in the Buffalo top line. I do like that kind of second pair duo, the Strome Panarin duo. Like they had good numbers last year, whether it was just goal scoring or play driving numbers. Like they were good together. Whether you want to say it was all Panarin, like that's fine, but I don't care as long as Ryan Strome's playing with them. So like I don't mind that as like a mini duo, especially where they're not going to see Buffalo's top line. Like Buffalo's got a real thing, not quite to the extent of Ottawa, but they've got a thing going where, you know, the top line is like 65% or 66% expected goal share, and then the rest of the team is below break even. So like, it's not like Buffalo's top line is a tough matchup, which is why I'm probably I'd avoid Zibanejad and Kreider because I think that's the matchup that you're going to see. I dig more into Strome and Panarin. Like I'm probably going to have some of that as a 2-man duo, and I'm probably going to leave him as a duo. Like Adam Fox at 6,400. Like I like him a lot as a defenseman, but 6,400. at that price, he's basically one of the 4 or 5 best defensemen in fantasy. And like, I don't think he's reached that level yet, especially where Ullmark might start tonight. That's going to make a big difference for me. Like, I am not a believer in Carter Hutton. Like we talked about, Carter Hutton had vision issues last year and apparently had them corrected. But even still, this guy's a career backup, 35-year-old goalie. Like, why would we think anything of him? Like for me, he's a nothing goalie. If Ullmark is in net, then that changes things for me. So, like, I'm gonna have some Panarin Strome duos. That's probably about it. I'm gonna have from the Rangers. I'm gonna try to fit in some Buffalo one, but they're just so expensive that I think I'm gonna be doing a lot of like Eichel, Reinhart, Olofsson, or Eichel, Olofsson, Dahlin, or something like that. It's just so expensive to put Eichel and Hall together that. Like, I don't know how many of my 20 lineups are going to have that, like maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have some Dahlin with Buffalo 1. Yeah. Let me get those team names corrected. Yeah. I've got some that I must have missed out on. Tyler, I'm going to update those once I throw it back to Cliffy, just a heads up. Some of the later games, I see Toronto and Edmonton. Winnipeg's not on the slate. So, I'm going to edit like the bottom 4 or so there just so you see that. But yeah, in this game, it's mostly just Buffalo 1 for me. I mean, with the ownership on Rangers 1, like it's pretty high considering it's a 13-game slate. So maybe if a couple more games get knocked out of here, we already lost St. Louis, Vegas. I'd be more interested in these Rangers, but I'd probably be more likely to go to Strome Panarin with you as well, Cliffy. So Buffalo 1, they're getting owned at a decent mark, but when you compare them to a stack like Toronto 1, for example, they're about double the ownership Toronto 1 is as Buffalo 1. So I like them. Try not to play too much of the absolute chalk on these huge slates, but I'm willing to play a bunch of Buffalo 1 here. Anything else in this game? Miller,
No, that's
2,500.
I mean, you could. I think that's probably it for me from this game. Like, I'd play Ullmark if I knew he was starting, but like, I don't want to scramble for goalies leading up to warm up.
All right. Let's go to Philadelphia, New Jersey. 3 implied total for the Flyers, 2.6 for the Devils. Carter Hart, Scott Wedgwood are your goalies. Feel free to just take this one wherever you'd like. I'm going to update some of these games that I've got wrong.
Yeah, okay. So the New Jersey top line for me is a real interesting situation because, like, I think we're still waiting for confirmation on the lines, and we'll see those when warm-ups hit. But it looks like Nikita Gusev is going to be jumping on the top line with Jack Hughes and Kyle Palmieri. And, like, I am very, very high on Gusev. He had a very strong finish to the season last year. I think he had, like, 30 points in his final 36 games or something like that. Somebody can double-check me. He's had a tough start to the season, but he was playing down the lineup with like Pavel Zacha and playing like 12, 13 minutes a night, not getting a whole lot. So he joins the top line here with Hughes and Palmieri. That's pretty important for one reason. And the reason is that New Jersey doesn't use their top line against other top lines. They use them against the depth. And with Sean Couturier out for the Flyers right now, the Flyers really don't have a lot of good center depth. I mean, there's Kevin Hayes, but, you know, like I said, the Devils use their depth against the opposing top line, so you don't have to worry about that. And then you're getting into the Scott Laughton and Nolan Patrick and all that. So I think Hughes and Palmieri and Gusev, especially on a slate where there are so many expensive lines, there are so many lines we want to use that are like 19, 20,000, 21 up to 24, like you said with Colorado. Like, we need to find spots that are really cheap, even though they might not necessarily be great spots. And I think the Devils top line certainly fits that bill. Now I know like Hughes and Palmieri maybe are going to be a little bit more popular than I'd like for them to be. Cause like I know I kind of ate my words last week when I said Hughes was a year away from big production. Then he went out and he had a 3-point game. But I'm still concerned about him getting matched up, game in, game out with guys that are just so much bigger physically than him. So I think if you have some concerns with Jack Hughes, I think it'd be that he could kind of get pushed around a little bit, but I'm not really worried about that. This matchup against the Flyers, like I said, no Sean Couturier. So that's going to be a big bonus for the Devils. On the Flyers side, you had Shane Gostisbehere up on the top pair with Ivan Provorov. He actually played the second most minutes of any Flyers defenseman in their last game. He played like 21 or 22 minutes. And Gostisbehere is still pretty cheap, so I don't mind going there. I really don't have a ton of interest in the Flyers side. I know they've been scoring goals without Couturier, but I think it's been more luck than it has been them just playing well. And like, I don't like to ride teams that are just playing lucky. So I'm going to be out mostly on the Flyers. I'll have some Gostisbehere one-off. That's about it. I'm going to have quite a bit of that New Jersey top line as my secondary stack for like the Torontos and the Pittsburghs and all that.
Yeah, I like New Jersey one, and I'm on the same page with you. I'm not a big fan of Philly tonight. Like, I don't know. If you wanted to go to the Patrick line or the Hayes line, I guess the prices are okay, but I don't really have faith that they're going to keep their lines from game to game. Like, they've become one of those teams that's switched up a bunch of times mid-game, and on a 13-game slate, like, I'm looking for reasons to cross lines off or just like limit them to maybe only a couple lineups out of 150. And that's kind of what I'm doing with Philadelphia tonight. Devils one, low owned, technically over owned if you're looking at our top stack tool, but still very low owned. So I'm okay with them coming in at about 3% ownership. I think that's about right. And I won't be leaving off Gusev too often, even though he's not in the power play. I like to keep him on there for 3,500 and make this a full line stack for New Jersey. If you're going to them, maybe Ty Smith, 4,100. Does his minutes jump up at all last game?
Not the last that I saw. Last I saw, he was still only playing about 12, 13 minutes. Oh, last game, he went from 11 minutes to 21. Okay.
All right. So okay, 4,100. I didn't notice him coming up in my stuff, but maybe I didn't have him with the correct power play designation. And so he might sneak in there with a couple New Jersey one stacks if we can project him at like even 17 or 18 minutes, maybe a couple more than that. But yeah, that's about all I've got on this game. Not the most interesting one of the bunch. Let's go to the Islanders and the Capitals. And yeah, feel free to talk about goalies. I know people get on us because we don't talk about goalies, but if you've got anyone that's jumping out to you in any of these games, feel free to mention those guys as we go. 2.8 implied total for the Isles, 2.6 for the Caps. Varlamov and Vanecek are your projected starters, neither one confirmed at this moment. Tom Wilson looking to be back in the lineup. Caps lose Lars Eller, so Oshie's going to slide to the second line center, which I don't think we've seen since he's been in the league. And then Wilson, technically a game-time decision. I believe they're expecting him to play, but if he's out and Oshie's playing center, it seems like this implied total for the Islanders might be a little bit low. Their top line isn't getting much ownership at all, though. So what do you like here?
So, like, I understand why you would want to be on the top line for the Islanders with all the injuries, but, like, as long as the Islanders – because I have Backstrom getting matched up against the Barzal line tonight.
Sure.
Backstrom, Vrana, let's say Wilson plays. So you have Backstrom, Vrana, Wilson going up against the Barzal line. Like, Vrana, Wilson, Backstrom, to me, that looks like a good defensive line. That's not a line that I really want to pick against. And when I look at the Islanders' price, that they're a little under 18K, 17.9. So that's not a super cheap price for a road matchup going into Washington. Like, I mentioned this to someone offline, but Kuznetsov and Ovechkin being out of the lineup actually helps the Capitals defensively. Like, it hurts them offensively, obviously, but it helps them defensively because those are really bad defensive players. I don't know what Oshie's going to look like at center, but he's going to be matched up against the Nelson line, so that's not really going to, it doesn't really matter for us for the top line matchup purposes. Like, I'm probably going to go back to the Washington one here because they were not owned whatsoever on the slate the other night. Like, John Carlson was like 2%. And I don't care if Ovechkin's out of the lineup. I'm going to play John Carlson at 2% even on a 13-game slate. I don't want to play – like, I would play Islanders too if Anthony Beauvillier was in the lineup, but he's not. And I think he's the straw that stirs the drink on that second Islanders line. It's just been a rotating cast of people since he got injured. It was Kiefer Bellows, and now it's, I think, Leo Komarov took some shifts there. Now it's Michael Dal Cole. Like, they don't know what to do with that second line anymore because Beauvillier is the guy that runs that second line. So, like, I'm out on the Islanders' second line. I don't want the top line going into Washington. I'll take the Washington top line hosting the Islanders. That's probably where I'm going to go is, like, I'm going to be off the Islanders almost completely. Like, if you want to go for goaltending, I guess you can do that because the goaltending is reasonably priced. But even then, like, I don't know how many shots Washington is going to generate. Like, I don't imagine they're going to generate like a ton of volume, especially in this matchup. So for me, it'll be Washington 1. I'm off the Islanders completely. It's because Washington is going to be almost no ownership percentage, and like, they're still good even without Ovechkin. They're still good offensively. Like, they don't need him to score goals.
Yeah, I prefer that top line for Washington, assuming Wilson can play. If he doesn't, I would just throw in whatever combo they have. I think Backstrom and Verana are going to be okay, generating some offense. But yeah, I prefer Wilson there, especially because he's a game-time decision. People don't pay attention to pregame skates, as we know, which is good for people that are paying attention. So I like Washington 1. I'm with you there. I think their ownership is a little bit too low. And then, yeah, going back to Isles 1, I'm just a big fan of them. Like, I just think they're awesome. And I don't like, the good part about them too is they're not really overpriced. And yeah, the matchup's tough, but like, I don't know. So is Pittsburgh 1's matchup against Boston. So if I'm willing to play that line, I think I should be willing to play some Isles 1 here. This is more of a deeper MME play. I don't think I'm going to get to them in like the higher stakes stuff as often. But yeah, 2% on this line with a depleted Caps team. I mean, Backstrom had to leave the game a couple times. He went down to the tunnel, so it's possible he's banged up as well. Yeah, I'm just playing.
No, he's just checking Robinhood.
Yeah, he's checking Robinhood, getting all that game stock. You're going to make the chat go crazy with that comment. I'm looking forward to seeing that in about 10 seconds. Anything else in this game?
No, that's about it for me. I mean, I still like Noah Dobson for his price. I mean, I think he's a guy you can one off because he can knock a couple assists for 3,800, and that doesn't necessarily mean the top line's going to go up. So I don't mind Dobson for his price. And if you want to use Varlamov in net, I guess that's fine. But like I said, I don't expect a ton of volume, so that's kind of dicey for me.
Yeah, I should mention Carlson's one of my favorite defensemen tonight, 6,900. Whether you're playing Washington 1 or not, I mean, you can obviously play him with them, but I think you can one off him as well. He's not shooting as much as I would like, but I still like, just based on his body work over the last couple of years, I think that's going to be coming at some point. So expensive, but he's up there as one of my favorite defensemen. Lightning and the Hurricanes, 3.1 implied total for Tampa, 2.9 for the Canes. Vasilevsky and Mrazek are your projected goalies here. Carolina, pretty long layoff, actually. Coming back with Aho, Svechnikov, and Brock McGinn, Trochek, Niederreiter, and Netchus. It's their second line. Pretty decent defensive team. And you're going to get Tampa 1 at almost no ownership tonight. Is that something that intrigues you?
Well, yeah, because of the ownership, I'm very interested here. Actually, it goes beyond the ownership too. The way I'm treating this game, it's like both teams came off bye weeks because Tampa hasn't played since Saturday and Carolina hasn't played in 10 days. So like Tampa's had 5 days off, Carolina's had 10. I remember Travis Yost, he's a hockey writer, writes for TSN up here in Canada. He wrote about the bye weeks last year or the year before. And basically, teams coming off bye weeks do lose much more often and allow more goals. Like, they just are rustier. That's just the way it is. And we have enough samples of bye weeks going back to like the 2014-15 season, I think. So, like, we have 6 years of this, of data looking back. So, like, I think this is like, I'm not expecting necessarily a sloppy game, but there's still, even with Carolina missing a couple of people, like Teuvo Teravainen still on the COVID list, and that kind of hurts them. But even with, a couple guys still on the COVID list, you have Aho, Svech, Stamkos, Point, like there's Hamilton, Hedman, there's still a lot of offensive talent here. So if they are a bit rusty, maybe there's going to be more goals than we expected. And, this is one of the games where, I think the over/under got hammered by a full half goal so far today. So, like you said, there may not be a lot of ownership here. So I'm going with both top lines, actually. I'm leaving Brock McGinn off the top line. Like, I think you're going to see a bunch of rotating players through there. Maybe not necessarily tonight, but definitely through, over the next few games till Tuvo comes back. But I'm going to have both top lines, especially where Aho and Svech are both under 6K. Like, you can put those two with Dougie together for under $18,000. I don't care the matchup. I'm definitely going to go with that. And like you said, we're showing low ownership for the Stamkos line. Like, as a line, we have them at 1.4%, which makes them one of our better leverage lines on our top stacks tool. So I am going to have quite a bit of both top lines in this game. One guy that I do love as a one-off is Vincent Trochek. I wrote about him on the Awesemo power plays this morning. He's about 4,500 on DK, top power play minutes. He was playing 18 or 19 minutes before COVID hit. I know that was without Jordan Staal, but I mean, what's Jordan Staal's, what's he going to be like playing his first game since I think the first day of the season here tonight. So I think Trochek is going to be back up at 17, 18 minutes again. So I do like Trochek as a one-off here tonight, but I am going to both top lines more than anything. No goalies, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, that's 8,400 for Vasilevsky, and then tough matchup for Mrazek at 7K. So I'm right there with you on Aho and Svechnikov. I don't hate leaving on McGinn just because he's 2,500, and I'm more so just going for the correlation. But yeah, it does give me some pause that if you think that he's not necessarily going to play all the shifts there. So maybe I'll back off that a little bit, but what you could do is go Aho, Svechnikov, and Trochek. You could go Staal as well for the power play correlation with Dougie. Really like Dougie tonight. He projects as one of our top defensemen. I think our top defenseman, and he's only 5,600. So while the matchup may not look great, the implied total is around 3. It's good enough for me. Dougie's a guy who's going to play 22, 24 minutes, somewhere in there, probably top power play duties. Tampa hasn't taken a bunch of power plays, but just, a lot of talent, especially on that top line, Aho and Svech together. You mentioned their prices. Looks awesome. So I really like Carolina 1. And I can't really say anything bad about taking a flyer on Tampa 1, one of the better lineups in the NHL. They're at 1.5% ownership. And so you look at the top stack tool, you're going to want to play Tampa 1. I'm perfectly fine with that. Don't have a lot of interest in anything elsewhere. If I was going to a second line, it would be Carolina's Trochek, Niederreiter, and that just really cheap. You could go something like Trochek and one of the wings, and then Aho or Svechnikov too as well if you want to do a broken power play stack. But that's really about it. Any interest in Hedman, 7K? I guess I haven't seen him too much because he has not been coming up in my lineups at all.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. What's the best way to go about this Tampa stack, because they are expensive, right? If you put just points, Stamkos and Hedman together, you're looking at 22,000 and change. So I think the way to go about this is to do your not broken power play stacks, but just use your power play stacks. Make sure you mix in Alex Killorn with your stacks. Point Killorn, Hedman, point Palat Killorn, point Stamkos Killorn, something like that, where you can keep the average cost of the stack down, just so that you're not so limited elsewhere in your lineup.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good call. Let's go to Florida and Columbus. 2.8 implied total for the Panthers, 2.8 as well. For the Blue Jackets, Chris Drager and Elvis Merzlikins are your goalies. Another low implied total, but some pretty good value. I guess the question here is, do you have any faith that these Columbus lines are going to stick together? And I'm sure you noticed what happened with Florida 1. They were pretty solid last game in the same matchup. So do you like anything here? Do you have any faith in Columbus?
Yeah, I will have some Columbus. I'll have some Tessier Bjorkstrand. One, because they skate together, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. 2, because Tessier's price came down, actually. I think he had an assist in their last game. He actually had a good night, if I'm not mistaken. He had a goal, 4 shots, and his price went down. So, I mean, I'll take it. If you're going to give me a discount on a guy that just scored and is probably going to play 18, 19, 20 minutes, then yeah, I'm going to take it. Like, I understand, believe me, I understand your trepidation about stacking anybody from a John Tortorella coach team. But when you're looking at Bjorkstrand, Tessier, like if you stack Tessier, Bjorkstrand, and Werenski, you're looking under 14K, right? So that's another one of those stacks like we talked about with New Jersey earlier that you could fit in with your Pitt one or your Tampa one or your Buff one. This is one of those stacks where guys, I mean, I hate to say that they're going to play those many minutes because like you said, you never know with Tortorella, but I feel fairly strongly that Tessier and Bjorkstrand are going to play like 18, 19, 20 minutes tonight. I'll take that price with those two with Werenski on the power play in what should be a good Florida matchup. Like Florida's defensive numbers have actually looked pretty solid so far this year, but they've only played 3 games, and I think 2 of them were against Chicago or one of them was against Chicago. So like I'm not really going to put any stock into it. I'm going to say Tessier and Bjorkstrand, who have looked good in the past, including last year, should be able to do some work here. Like they're not going to go up against Barkov either, and I think that's a big one. Is that if you miss Barkov and if you miss the Ekblad-Weegar pairing, who usually play with Barkov, I think you can do some damage in the Florida depths. So, yeah, give me Tessier, Bjorkstrand. You can throw Foligno on if you want, just because he's cheap. You don't necessarily have to, but I am using them a lot with Werenski. On the Florida side, like, I'm just going to one-offs. Like, I'm not dealing with their broken lines. I don't think it's a very good matchup. Their one-offs are cheap enough that like they won't kill you if they don't come through in a big way. So like, give me some Verhaeghe, give me some Duclair, give me some Hornqvist, guys like that. I'm going to be one-offing. Rest of Florida, I want nothing to do with.
I'm going to have pretty limited shares on Florida on both of these top two. Like I mentioned, Florida one was good last game. I think they had like 19 shot attempts at 5-on-5, which is pretty impressive. But I don't know if they're going to repeat this performance. I've got right now on Columbus one, it's almost just better for me to tell you where I'm at on them. I'm at like 3% Columbus one right now, and that's pretty much it. I think people are excited about Roslovic. Are you excited about him at all? And then we got a super chat really quick, so I'm going to get to that afterwards.
Yeah, no, like for me, Roslovic is just another middle six body. Like he's not a guy that I would get super excited over. It's if he's going to play 17 or 18 minutes and he's cheap, then yes, I'll play him. If he's going to play 13 and 14 minutes and he's cheap, then I don't care.
Yeah. I don't know. I just hate Columbus games. I can't imagine just clicking on Columbus a bunch of times. I know Tessier and Bjorkstrand are good, so those guys maybe make an exception for them. If you're doing like a power play stack, like a full 5-man and you got a 2-man that you need that's pretty cheap, that's a good 2-man, I think. Not a huge Foligno guy, but this is the line that's getting the most ownership too. So I guess I'm just in line with what the field has on this game overall. Charlie Reinhart asks, or he says, thanks for the hockey content, y'all. Any interest in Kevin S tonight? At first, I thought he was talking about Kevin Stenlund.
That's what I just assumed.
I think he's talking about Shattenkirk. So feel free to drop in who you're actually talking about. If it's Stenlund, don't play him because he's not playing tonight. He's going to be scratched because of Roslovic. Shattenkirk, let's see where we've got him projected. He wasn't a guy I was going out of my way to play, but yeah, we've got him as a pretty good value and 2.4% ownership right now. So if you guys want to check out those ownership projections, they're free today. Nightbot's got you hooked up with the free premium content. What do you think about Shattenkirk tonight?
I do have some Shattenkirk. He's actually in my notes as a one-off because I do like the duo of him and Gibson here tonight. So I'm not going to have a ton of Shattenkirk because I'm not going to have a ton of any player on a slate this big, but I am going to have some.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like when I say I've got a lot of someone, like a lot of Isles one, it might only be like 7-8%. It's a lot compared to the field. Like if you look at my exposures, I'm trying to remember. I think I had 20% McDavid, and that was my highest owned player a couple nights ago. So like it's just such a spread around approach when you got 150. I think you can make it a little bit tighter when you're playing 20 like you are, and obviously if you're playing like 1 to 3 lineups or something like Josh. you can go heavier on guys, but is that kind of what you're doing as well? You're going to have guys that are, 40% exposed?
Me, no, usually I'll go in the other direction. I'll probably have, like, I usually go heavier because I am only in on 20 lineups, so I kind of have to focus on certain spots, right? Like, I can't just get 1% here and 2% there and 3% there. So on a big slate like this with 20 lineups, I'll probably sit, like, no player will be higher than 20% owned in any of my lineups, and most of them will be somewhere in the 10 to 15% range. But even then, with 26 teams and, dialing my ownership in half, like, there's still gonna be a bunch of spots that I'm gonna have 0% ownership, and you have to learn to live with that there are gonna be some nights that you can't stack everybody, and one of the stacks you miss is just gonna bury you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's exactly right. So don't get discouraged if you lose on a 13 slate.
No, that's the one thing I want to get across is that these types of slates are almost designed to discourage you. Don't get discouraged. There are smaller slates ahead, my friends.
Yeah. Now, if you're losing on like the 5 to 8 gamers consistently, then you're going to want to head to lineup study and check out what some of the better players are doing, and try to emulate them. But tonight, like this, there's just, I don't know. Someone's gonna hit the nuts, and it might be you, it might not. But I hope, like, we don't have too many of these 14 gamers, 13 gamers in the future. So just remember that. Calgary, Montreal, 2.9 implied total for the Flames, 3.1 for the Canadiens. David Riddick and Carey Price are your goalies. A couple new combos for the Flames. Levo moves up with Lindholm and Tkachuk. They move Mangiapane down to his spot with Backlund and Bennett. Was getting to a bunch of exposure in this game, and I'm not seeing much ownership on either side. So what interests you here, Cliffy?
What interests me is Montreal 1, Danault, Tatar, Gallagher. What concerns me is the ice time. It's something that I mentioned in the Power Plays article this morning. The only Montreal forward averaging over 17 minutes of ice time a game is Nick Suzuki. And Suzuki, Danault, and Toffoli are the only forwards averaging over 16 minutes a game. So almost everyone is playing in that 14 to 16 range, and that's just not a lot of ice time. But Calgary's got a thing going on, like we talked about earlier with Buffalo, and as well with Ottawa, where they have one line that is really dominating the play, and the other lines are basically just treading water or sinking. And for Calgary, that's the Tkachuk-Lindholm line. They're doing extremely well this year. Regardless of the winger that they're with, they're putting up a very nice 69% expected goal share. Like, that is just massive. And it's not like it's unexpected. They played well together last year as well. Like, people forget that Lindholm was taken off that line late in the season and into the playoffs, and he played quite a bit with Tkachuk, and they did look good. But Montreal is going to be matching up their top line, Danault, Tatar, Gallagher, up against Monahan, Gaudreau, and it should be Dominic Simone is going to be the third on their line. And that's just not a good defensive line. They should be the math from Adam Daly Fry, who's the guy that does our matchup sheets. And if you want access to them, you can pay for them. Just get in touch with me. If you look at the matchups for Montreal, like, it's just not even close. They have like a 3.2 expected goals for, and Calgary's is 2.5 expected goals against, which is over a full standard deviation worse than the league mean. So, like, this is a big mismatch for Montreal 1. I don't think they're going to come in super high owned. We don't have Gallagher's at 4% right now in our ownership. They are kind of expensive for a line that might only play 15 or 16 minutes and don't have power play correlation, but I think the matchup is good enough at 5-on-5 where you can take, like I said, at 4%, you don't need a lot of them. If you're playing 20 lineups, you only need 1 or 2. If you're playing 150, you only need like maybe 10. Yeah. You don't need a ton of lineups to be overweight on them, and I think this is a really good matchup. So I'm not going to be in on Calgary. I think this is a pretty bad matchup for them. Montreal's really deep. I don't see, like, it's tough. There is no weakness in their top 9 when you're going for line matching. So I'm going to be out on Calgary on tonight's game. Give me some Danault, give me some Gallagher, give me some Tatar. I'm going to be mixing and matching them in with Alex Romanoff, just because Gallagher and Tatar do play on the second PP with him, and he's a lot cheaper than Weber and Petrie. So I am going to have Romanov in with my Montreal one stacks.
Yeah, I am in agreement with pretty much everything there. So I love Montreal one tonight. I love their ownership. I kind of like they're never popular because you get Gallagher and Tatar on like the quote unquote second power play unit sometimes. That's how these sites list them, which is fine. They're just really awesome at 5-on-5, and that's what I mostly care about. No one really plays to know. Not that you really should as a one-off, but with Tatar and Gallagher, I think there's always potential for assists there. So I really like Montreal one. I'm going to have some of the second line as well. They're getting up in price. Suzuki, Drouin, and Anderson have some pretty solid numbers together at 5-on-5 so far. Yeah, mostly about Montreal, but I like Lindholm and Tkachuk as well. The problem is just their price. Like, I don't think there's not going to be that many people that play them at that price, I don't think. We've got them at just over 1%, even if you include Levo. So that's a GPP flyer lineup or a line that I'll get to some. D-men are not popular. They're very expensive on both sides. Gio 5,700 not on the top power play, and then Weber and Petrie both over 6K tonight. When you can have Dougie for 5,600, it seems a bit foolish to be paying for these guys.
Yeah, there's not a defenseman I'm paying up for in this game other than Romanov. Like I'll probably have some cheap Ben Sherratt, 3,600. That's about it. Sherratt, Romanov, that's it. Like I said, I'm not in on Calgary tonight, so nothing from there. Oh, right. I should say Markstrom. I do have a lot of interest in Jacob Markstrom because I think Montreal.
It's Riddick.
Oh, Riddick?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that he was announced. No, then I have no.
Yeah, they kind of snuck that in earlier today.
Okay. Oh, nope. And I have no interest in Calgary goaltending either. This is probably going to be a pounding.
Okay, so you got that as a pretty massive downgrade then.
Oh yeah, like right. I have Markstrom as a top 10 goalie, and I have Riddick as not a starting goalie. So,
all right, good to know. Before we move it on, just want to remind everyone to hit the like button. We've got 52 so far, close to 270 people watching. So let's try to get that up over 100. Makes us look good. And helps you guys out as well. If you could subscribe to the channel, because then you'll know when we go live and have more free content. So the likes, the subscriptions, everything helps us provide more free stuff for you guys. Also, ownership projections for NHL today are free, so go check those out. They're going to be useful for comparing some of these lines to each other. Yeah, I'm very heavily relying on ownership projections, even though it feels like everything's flat in ownership. There are some big discrepancies. So the top stack tool also does a great job of showing you who's over-owned, who's under-owned compared to their top stack probability. That's another premium tool you get, Premium Slack. Really useful tool tonight, whether you're hand building or building a ton of lineups like I am. Catching that late news is very important. Just playing guys that are playing together. Playing guys that aren't going to get zeros is a pretty big deal. It happens a lot more often than you think. We've also got projections, of course, the lineup builder, which is what I use every day to guide the show. So lots of good stuff. And then check out our Awesemo NHL Twitter account. We've got a giveaway going on right now. It says flash giveaway, but it's from yesterday, so it's still going on. Don't worry about the flash part. All you got to do is reply with your favorite NHL team, and then one random winner is going to win $50. You just got to follow the directions. And the last part of the tweet, super simple, takes 5 seconds, and got a chance to win $50. That's basically what 5/8 of the way of maxing the $4 tonight, which is a pretty good tournament. So think about it like that. It's a no-brainer. Kings and the Wild, 2.5 implied total for the Kings, 2.9 for Minnesota. Jonathan Quick expected to go. Kaapo Kähkönen, again, these two teams played a low-scoring game the other night. Wild could have had a handful of goals. I was watching that. I don't know why. I need to not watch this game again, because it was miserable to watch for like 2 full periods. Anyways, Eriksson Ek, not with his normal line mates, Greenway and Foligno. He's going to be with Kaprizov and Marcus Johansson, at least to start with. I have a suspicion they're going to go back to that line at some point if they need a defense, especially later in the game. They're protecting the lead. What does that do for you in this game? I'm kind of disappointed they broke up Minnesota 3 because I was just going to cross off Kopitar entirely. I don't know if you saw what they did to him last game, but it was ugly for Kopitar.
Yeah. I still am going to cross off the Kopitar line because I think Foligno and Greenway are good enough defensively on their own that, like, it is a loss losing Eriksson Ek and having Nico Sturm replace it. It is a loss defensively, don't get me wrong, but I think they're still good enough defensively to carry them for one game, especially when you have a blue line with like Spurgeon and Suter and Brodin with those guys. Like, I'm not super concerned about Eriksson Ek moving up as far as matchups go. What it does is it kind of gets me off Kirill Kaprizov. Like, I know the Minnesota centers aren't really a lot. There isn't much to talk about. So, like, when you're saying I hate seeing Joel Eriksson Ek there, you have to think, like, who's going to replace him? Is it like Bjugstad or Victor Rask? Or, like, I'd say Nick Bonino should be there, but they don't think that. Eriksson Ek is good defensively, but he's a nothing offensively. Like, this will hurt that line offensively. So it gets me off of Minnesota 2 completely. But here's the problem with that is that there's a good chance that Los Angeles' second line, Carter, Lizotte, Athanasiou, is the worst line in hockey. And I'm not being hyperbolic there. Their expected goal share so far this season is under 30%. Like, that is beyond abysmal. Like, that's not even AHL. Like, AHLers do better than that. So, like, I don't have a lot of faith in Eriksson Ek as an offensive center, but if him and Kaprizov are going to go into the teeth of that great matchup, I'm finding it hard not to get someone off Kaprizov at least. So I want to do at least that.
Okay.
But I really do like Fiala Parise as a duo here tonight. They go up against the depth from other teams. So, like, they're going to be going up against the depth from Los Angeles, and there's just not a lot of depth here. So I do like, that top line duo, Fiala Parise, if you want to use the two of them. Mix in Kaprizov with him if you want. I'm fine with that. It's just I'm having a hard time. I love that Minnesota 2 matchup tonight. I'm just having a hard time getting there with Eriksson Ek because I just think he does too much for them defensively and nothing for them offensively.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. Some interest in both of the top 2 lines for Minnesota, but it's more just what they allow me to get in with the rest of my lineups. So it's not like the matchup's fine, especially if you're going up against Lizotte and Athanasiou. I think they had like 3 shots to the opponent's 13 shot attempts in their last game, and the announcers were talking about how great they were because they had like 2 quality chances early and then just got wrecked. They're just not good defensively. So, and Sturm, actually, I didn't realize how big he is. He actually makes the line bigger. Already just a massive trio. He's 6'3", 207 pounds. So they're just loading up that line with big guys. But yeah, just top 2 lines for Minnesota. I'm probably still not going to end up with any Kopitar. And they're actually getting some ownership, 3% right now. I think I'll pass and go to a line that I like better for 1% or something like that. Defenseman for Minnesota is kind of a mess. Spurgeon, $4,200. I guess a decent value there in our projections, but they switch these guys up so often. It's hard to really get a read on what they're going to do. And it's not like their power play is great anyways. Anything on the blue line before we move it on?
Yeah, I find myself just going to Matt Dumba over and over again. Like, his price isn't getting out of control. I know he doesn't have the power play correlation with the guys that we're probably going to play, but like, he's the guy that shoots. He's the guy that puts up points. Like, he's the guy that scores goals. Like, he's the guy that I want, like, on my blue line. Like, I get the trust me, I get the correlation argument, but like you said, they've been changing their defensemen in and out of that so often that I just find myself just sticking at Matt Dumba and just going with it. So it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but I just find the value for me is what's getting me there.
Yeah, and I think if one of these defensemen for Minnesota scores 20 DK points, I think it's most often going to be a guy like Dumba compared to Spurgeon, Suter, Brodin. So I'm fine with him as a one-off. He's just not a great value, but definitely still has some upside if he's going to shoot at a decent rate. Detroit, Dallas, 2.3 implied total for the Red Wings, 3.1 for the Stars. Bernier, Grice, not sure who's going yet for Detroit. Jake Odinger, is it Odinger? Anyways, he's $8,200 for this Stars team. Pretty lopsided game here. It appears Detroit played him tough a couple nights ago. Dylan Larkin is officially a game-time decision. It sounds like they think he's going to play. If he doesn't, that could be even more trouble for the Red Wings. And then Rupe Hintz is a game-time decision as well. Radulov he was just on a maintenance day yesterday, so he's good to go, it appears. If Hintz plays, I would think he plays with Gurianov and Dickinson, although I'm not exactly sure. Not 100% there, but do you like anything in this game? Dallas, pretty decent total and not too expensive for some of their guys, at least.
Yeah, do I like anything in this game? Well, no. Like, honestly, this is a tough game because, like you said, Rope Hintz is a game-time decision, and the difference between him and Justin Dowling is $3K. Like, this isn't just something – it's not like this is a goalie you can just swap in and out. If you look, they are getting kind of expensive. Pavelski, if you stack Pavelski, Radulov, and Klingberg, it's over $20K. Like, that is expensive.
Got to mix in Caro. I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm kind of kidding, but
no, but that guy's so bad. That guy's so bad. The Chicago Blackhawks said we don't want you playing for us.
Like, well, he's getting some shot attempts at least. It's better than some other guys that we play for more expensive.
I know, and like this is a great spot. Like it might be the best spot, especially if Dylan Larkin's out. It might be the best spot on the entire slate. But like I said, if you stack the top line, you need to leave yourself with $3,000 in case you need to move up to Hintz. And if you stack the second line with Klingberg, you're looking at over $20,000 for 3 players. Like I can't see myself getting to a lot of Dallas tonight. Like we talked before the show, I haven't made my lineups yet. Just looking at my values, like I have Dallas 1 as one of the worst first line values because like Dowling and Dickinson aren't anything. I have Dallas 2 as one of the worst values on the entire slate. This is independent of matchup, like not taking matchup into account. As one of the worst values on the entire slate because they're so expensive. So, like, I don't think I'm going to be getting to much Dallas. If anything, the 2 things I'll be taking out of this game are one-off Heiskanen because I think he's the perfect guy to one-off. He is like the rover, go end-to-end, do-it-yourself type of defenseman. That's the guy I want in my lineup. I think he's kind of an engine for them at 5-on-5. So I'll have quite a bit of one-off Heiskanen from Dallas. But I'll probably be playing Thomas Greiss. I'll have a fair bit of Greiss, 6,800. Should see some volume here tonight. Obviously, 4 goals against and getting pulled after 10 minutes is very much in the cards, but at his price and expected volume, I'm going to have quite a bit of Greiss. And honestly, it doesn't really bother me if it's Greiss or Bernier. I'd much rather have Greiss, but I'm probably going to play either of them.
Yeah, there are actually – so I like this game a little bit better than you. Slack's going to crucify me because I always play Dallas, and then people play them and get mad when they suck. But I kind of like that there's uncertainty in their lineup. Like, I think it's an okay spot for their team. I wouldn't be shocked if they put up like 4 or 5 goals here. It's Detroit, and they're going to be really low owned on a big slate. They're a little bit expensive, Pavelski and Radulov especially. If Hintz is in, that makes the price for Dallas too also a little bit prohibitive. But I'm going to just crunch like Hintz is playing, and then either swap to a new line if it's Dowling centering there if Hintz doesn't go, or if they mix everything up. Like, you've got a bunch of options in these last 4 games we still got left. So like you can go to Ottawa's top line if you wanted to do something like that. There's a bunch of different options, so I'm not too worried. I'm going to end up with some of both of these top 2 Dallas lines. And then one line that I'm kind of interested in for Detroit at no ownership is just the second line. Like, Ryan and Mantha are super cheap. If you want to leave off Nemestikov, I'm not going to get mad at anybody for that, but they're getting basically no ownership like most lines are tonight. And so that's going to be a line I'm going to have some of. It's not pretty, but.
Yeah. one thing I want to mention for Detroit as well is Troy Stetcher played 23 minutes in their last game, and he's min price. So if you need a stone cold min punt, there you go.
Oof, man. He played like 30 minutes, I'm pretty sure, in a game in Vancouver a couple seasons ago, and I'm pretty sure he had 0 points. I remember tilting him in Slack.
While you're introducing the next game, I'll look that up.
Yeah, like he either had like 1 block in 30 minutes or something like that. Like he was playing with Edler, and they were missing a bunch of guys. Maybe I'm thinking of a different guy, but we've got 4 more games, so no more Troy Stetcher talk, I guess. We got to get out of here in 15 minutes. Sharks and Avs, 2.5 implied total for the Sharks, 3.5 for the Avs. It's going to be Dubnyk getting the start. He came in relief 2 nights ago and got peppered. Grubauer going for the Avs. He's 8,500 though, so hard to get excited about him. The Sharks are sitting John Leonard. They are going to have Timo Myers go to the second line with Hurdle and Kane. That's a line that I think is perfectly fine for MME, but they're actually one of the more owned lines on the slate, which 2.5 implied total. It's giving me a little bit of pause. Love Colorado here. It's just a matter of how much Colorado 1 can you fit in when they're 24K. You're going to be dipping down to fourth lines to get to 40% of them? Probably not. So I don't see myself getting over the field on Colorado 1 especially, but I will definitely have some 5-man power play stacks and just punt with, maybe like a Mantha, Bobby Ryan 2-man or something along those lines. Helps fit in this Colorado power play stack. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I don't know how much Colorado I'm going to get to tonight. There's just a certain limit that once a line gets to a certain price, they just don't show up on my crunches anymore. And
yeah,
usually it's about $23,000, 24. I can assume that they just won't be there. It's just way too expensive. That's the way I set it up is like basically they'd have to score half your points. So like you need 100 points from a 3-man stack. Like I just don't see it happening. I know that's not the way it exactly works out because of the values elsewhere, but it's just kind of the way I look at it. So I think the way to attack it would be doing like McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, and then Donskoy, or McKinnon, Landeskog, Makar, and then Comfort or something like that. I think if you're going to stack Colorado here tonight, I think you better stack with the intention that they're going to score more than 3 or 4 goals, and you need to stack to bring down the average cost. Because if you just go McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, Makar, the rest of your lineup is going to be fourth liners. Like you just can't do it. So I'm probably not going to get a ton of Colorado 1. I would recommend mixing and matching with some depth players just to bring down the average cost of the line. For me, it's the second lines that I have a little bit more interest in on this slate. Colorado 2 hasn't been that good defensively this year. San Jose looks to be reuniting that dangerous second line back together, Hurdle, Kane, and Meyer. I'm going to have some of that San Jose second line. I know that you said that they're coming in fairly high. Vander Kane's at 6%. I don't think that's that bad, especially on a road slate for 3 guys that are exceptional 5-on-5 players playing together. So in a good matchup. So I'm going to be on that San Jose 2 line, Hurdle, Kane, Meyer. I'm probably not going to have much of Colorado 1. If you're looking to dig deep, Bo and Byram actually played 21 minutes in their last game. I know it was kind of a blowout, but Makar still played over 20 minutes. Like their guys were still close to their regular total. So Byram's going to play 20 or 21 minutes at 3K. I like him, and Mario Ferraro, another 3K defenseman. If you're looking real cheap for a lot of minutes, you can go over to Ferraro on the San Jose side.
Yeah. Look, I mean, this is like they're really difficult to fit in, but I'm going to try to jam in as much Colorado 1 as I feel is reasonable. Like I'm looking at these lineups. You're not going to like the lineups if you 3-3 stack Colorado. And so like some of these are just going to get X'd out because they're going to be popular pairings with Colorado 1. But there's ways to do it. There's lines that I feel somewhat comfortable with. You need them to be the number one stack on the night. They have the best chance of being the number one stack on the night, according to the top stack tool. But there's lines that aren't that far behind. So that's what's going to turn some people off, which I understand, especially with the $4,000 difference between them and the Matthews line, for example, in Toronto. So I get it. I'm going to try to slam them in and hope you get another 7-goal game, but this time they're doing most of the damage and it's not spread out. So I think that's a reasonable outcome in this game. They just did it 2 nights ago. So Burns 6,700, a guy that I'll have double digits of. He's not going to be super popular tonight. We've got him in the teens, which I think is fine. And then I like to call him Byram, 3K. If he's playing 17, 18 minutes, I think that's worth it as a one-off guy, last man in type of thing.
Yep.
Anaheim, Arizona, 2.6 implied total for the Ducks, 2.8 for the Yotes. Gibson, Kemper are your goalies. This was a 1-0 shutout a couple nights ago for Gibson. He still got it to some extent. Could do it again here. Is there any line that you like? There's 2 that I'm comfortable playing in this game, and then I don't know about the rest of these, but what do you like here?
I just laughed at the goaltending pricing. Darcy Kemper's at 8,100 and John Gibson's at 7,900.
Yeah. Usually it's one or the other, right? Like, so there's one expensive guy, one cheap guy, or they're both like 75, 7,600. They just bumped both of these guys way up.
Yeah. I think Gibson has 2 shutouts in 6 games, so that's probably why, like, at a certain point, like, you have to give him his due. Like, I was writing about Gibson this morning for Awesemo at our power plays. Gibson and Kemper over the last 3 years are number 1 and number 4 by expected goals saved above average. Like, they are 2 of the top 5 goalies in the league over the last 3 years. Like, a 1-0 shutout isn't something that is completely unexpected. And that's why, like, I don't have a ton of interest in this game because there aren't a lot of great offensive players, and these are 2 excellent goaltenders. So I don't have a ton of interest here. There are some guys like Christian Dvorak is a guy I have interest in as a one-off just because he's going to play like 18 or 19 minutes at 3,500. Maxime Comtois as a one-off for Anaheim. He's getting some power play minutes, so I don't mind using Comtois. Comtois is a guy that I was pretty high on. He's starting to find his legs as a prospect. He's not going to play a ton of minutes, but, under 3K as a one-off, I'm fine with that. So Dvorak is a one-off. Comtois is a one-off. I mean, Schmaltz and Garland, I kind of want to play them because those 2 with Kajula have been good. They have been good. It's been a small sample. It's still early in the year, et cetera, but they have been good. What makes me kind of want to use them is that they're going to, like, according to our matchups from Adam Daly Fry, they're going to see 3rd and 4th lines pretty much the whole game. 3rd and 4th lines from this Anaheim team, including their 2nd and 3rd pairing defensemen, like, there is nothing here. So I'm not going to have a lot of Schmaltz and Garland. I'll probably have them in 1 or 2 out of my 20 lineups, but I do like that matchup against Anaheim tonight. But like I said, other than Schmaltz, Garland, Kajula, it's going to be 1 off Dvorak, 1 off Comtois, or the goalies. Other than that, not a lot for me.
I like the Henrique line, Henrique, Silfverberg, and Heinen a little bit. It looks like they're picking up some ownership just because they're cheap, and those guys all project as decent value. So not saying anything crazy there.
There's a call 1 line, right?
Yeah, exactly. So be aware of what you're doing with your defensemen. If you're going to stack those 2 even strength lines, you could 2-man it with, Henrique and Silfverberg or something. Leave off Heinen, or, leave off Henrique and go Silfverberg, Heinen, or something like that. There's ways to get creative. And then I'm right there with you on the Schmaltz, Garland, Kajula line. If you want to leave off Kajula, never going to really hate on someone for doing that. But he is 3,200, makes that line a little bit cheaper. I think you may be able to slam them in with Colorado 1, but you're really hurting for salary. So these are more just lines that I'll get a little bit of exposure to, but those were the 2 that jumped out to me a little bit in this game. Shattenkirk, 3,700. We talked about him a little bit. Don't mind him. No. Top power play duties.
Like Shattenkirk, Gibson, those are like, that's probably my most popular combo of players so far this season is using Shattenkirk Gibson.
Not a bad idea so far.
Because Gibson's been so cheap up until tonight, right? So is Shattenkirk. So.
All right, we got 2 more games in about 5 minutes. Everybody hit the like button if you do enjoy what we're doing here. Help us provide more free stuff in the future. We're giving you as much as you can handle, as much as we can handle. 3.2 implied total for the Leafs, 3.2 as well for the Oilers. Anderson, Koskinen are your expected goalies. I don't see any line changes here. It looks like both of these teams running it back. These two teams did not play against each other 2 nights ago. But I think this one might be quick because we know where to attack it. There's ownership on both sides here. Do you have a favorite side between the two?
Yeah, it's Edmonton. Here's the thing for Toronto with me is their numbers aren't very good this year. Their expected goals for numbers at 5-on-5, they're tied with Buffalo and they're trailing New Jersey and Florida. And their actual goal scored numbers are right in line with their expected goal scored numbers. So, like, there's nothing amiss here. Now, you should say Toronto probably shouldn't shoot mid-pack as a team. They should probably be higher, like 5th, 6th, 7th. I mean, that's fine. When they get there, I'll start playing. Like, this is a 13-game slate. At a certain point, you have to pick and choose certain spots to avoid, especially high-priced ones. I'm going to avoid Toronto tonight just because their start hasn't been very good, and they've split up their power play, and I think they're going to be much higher owned than they should be on a slate this big. So I'm out on Toronto. I'm in on Edmonton. Like, Puljujarvi's looked really good. Puljujarvi played one of the 2 top power plays in their last game. He's not going to take over for James Neal just yet on the power play, but he is going to get a little bit of time there. And as long as he's getting a little bit of time, as long as top PP, give me all the Edmonton ones. So that's where I'm going. Edmonton 1, Edmonton power play, and Koskinen.
Yeah, I agree. I like them a little bit better than the Toronto side. I think here's what I'm going to do with this game is just I'm going to have exposure to both sides, at least to start with, but I'm going to be prepared to swap because you're going to get a lot of ownership coming in late. And so if you're behind, you might want to go to like Vancouver or something and leave some salary on the table, or Ottawa if you're really chasing. I'm playing like some of the higher dollar stuff tonight. I'm playing the Q. And so like one of my teams might be an Edmonton or Toronto stack and might end up getting swapped off. So in tournaments where you like it's really top heavy or you're playing for a Q seat, just be prepared to get weird if you're playing one of these teams and things aren't going your way early. Yeah, Edmonton PP, I think is the play. I love Nurse for 4,500, one of my favorite defensemen tonight, but getting a lot of ownership. Riley's your guy if you want to go with the Leafs top line. I like the Leafs top line. I like Toronto top line for MME builds. Both fit pretty nicely. I don't think I'm going to have either one over the field when it's all said and done, though. They're both popular. Let's go to the last game on the night, and then we'll get out. Ottawa, Vancouver. We just saw this one last night. It's going to be Murray and Holtby, 2.9 implied total for the Sens, 3.2 for the Canucks. Stetzel, is he a game time decision? Or Stutzel? I can't remember his pronunciation. Josh and I were trying to figure it out. But do you like anything on the Ottawa side? I'm assuming you've got some interest in Vancouver on the B2B here.
Yeah, the Vancouver top line, Pettersson, Besser, Miller, is one of my favorite lines of the whole night. They're going to be one of my highest exposed lines. I'm going to mix in some Bo Horvat too, just to get a little bit of different. But anything about that Edmonton or Vancouver power play, they're going to probably be my highest owned line here tonight. I am going to have some of that Ottawa top line. They've been really good this year. They're going to see the depth from Vancouver. They're not going to see the Pettersson line. So they should be able to take advantage of some depth matchups. So I'm going to be on both top lines here, not so much on the depth other than mixing in Horvat for some Pettersson once in a while.
Yeah, I love Vancouver here. And even if we're undershooting the ownership right now, I'm guessing this will come up a little bit on the Pettersson line. Even if they're like 6-7%, I don't think they're going to be too much higher than that. So love them. They got going yesterday. Pettersson scored. Finally, it looks like he's generated a few points recently. Really good numbers at 5-on-5 going back to last year with that trio. So I'm seeing nothing that's getting me off of Vancouver, not ownership, not the lines, not the power play combos. I love it all. And then Hughes is shooting a lot this year. So I think I'm even considering using him as a one-off, which I don't usually do. 5,900 is tough. But I think I'd rather use Hughes as a one-off than like Shabbat. I think Shabbat is a guy that I'm only going to play with some Ottawa 1 stacks. Ottawa 1 actually has good offensive numbers at 5-on-5 as well. So pretty interested in them as well. Horvat, Hoglander, Pearson, anything for you there or no?
Just the top lines for me out of this game.
All right. Let us get out of here then. Thank you, everybody, for watching and sticking with us through this 13-game slate. We've got NBA coming up next, leading you up to the 7:30 Eastern lock. So tune into that. Free NBA rankings today, free NHL ownership projections. Go check those out. Make sure you paste in, if you use an Excel, paste in the latest update or eyeball the latest update right before lock. Good luck, everybody. And we'll be back Saturday because it's a one-gamer tomorrow. See you then.
Good luck.